Most photographers never reach their full potential, and it's not because they lack talent, but because they fall into a trap, one they subconsciously built themselves. If you can see the trap, it's easy to step right over it, but if you don't, it's like quicksand. You sink deeper with every step, and photography stops being fun and creative and starts to feel frustrating, discouraging, and stressful. But here's the good news. The moment that you see the trap for what it is, it loses all of its power. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what this trap is, the mindset shift that keeps you free of it, and share one counterintuitive tip that will improve your photography more than anything else. A lot of people assume great photographers are just naturally talented, that you either have it or you don't. But that's not how skill actually works. Imagine this glass is your level of photographic skill. Ideally, what we want to do is fill the glass. When the glass is full, it means you're taking photos you're proud of, and photography is a fun, explorative, creative process. When you start out, you already have some water in the glass. This is your level of talent. We all start out with some. It's not a matter of having it or not, but how much do you have? For example, someone else might start out with this much. This person is more naturally talented, but you can see they still have a lot of space between them and the top of the glass. They've still got plenty of work to do. The problem is both of these people are comparing themselves with this person. We live in an age of instant comparison where every shot you take is immediately stacked up against the best work that you see online. Now, comparison can be an extremely useful learning tool, but the problem is how this paralyzes people. They'll take a shot and say, is this even good? Maybe I'm not talented enough for this. Why do I even try? And that instant self-judgment kills creativity before it even has a chance to develop. This is the quicksand. The real reason people stay stuck isn't a lack of talent, it's this internal criticism stopping them from taking the shots they need to improve. Whenever someone accomplishes something great, the first thing we say is, wow, they're so talented. The problem stems from this word talent, because talent actually has very little to do with it. As we can see from these three glasses, each person starts out with a certain level of talent, but that alone is not enough to fill the glass. So if it's not talent that creates great achievement, what does? Psychologist and researcher Angela Duckworth is an expert on grit, perseverance, and skill development. She spent years studying why some people succeed while others don't, and her findings completely reframe how we should think about talent. Duckworth defines talent as the speed at which your skills improve when you put in effort. She boils it down to two equations. Talent times effort equals skill. Skill times effort equals achievement. So if achievement is the full glass and talent is where we start, all that matters is filling the glass. But do you notice anything about these two equations? Look at effort. It appears twice. It's the only thing that is a factor in both equations. Effort is the most important component, and it's the only thing that we have direct control over. You don't get better by thinking about photography, you get better by taking more photos. Jerry Uelsmann, a renowned photographer and professor at the University of Florida, decided to run an experiment with his film photography students. He split the class into two groups. One half was told to take the best possible photo they could. They were graded on the single most perfect image they could create by the end of the term. The other half was told to take as many photos as possible. Their grade depended entirely on the sheer number of images they shot. At the end of the term, something fascinating happened. All of the best photographs came from the group that focused on quantity, not quality. While the first group spent their time overanalyzing and trying to perfect a single image, the second group was constantly experimenting, refining, and improving with each shot. By the time they reached the end of the course, because they had put in a higher volume of effort, they had naturally developed the skills to take better images simply because they had shot more of them. I had an excellent film production teacher back in high school named Mr. Golden, and he used to always tell us that every filmmaker has a certain number of bad films they have to make before they can start to make good ones. But this doesn't just apply to filmmaking. I think this applies to every art form, and it aligns perfectly with both Angela Duckworth and Jerry Uelsmann's findings around skill acquisition and achievement. The most important thing to focus on is volume of effort. Deliberating over perfection does not make you better. Comparing yourself to others who are better than you does not make you better. The only thing that does is consistently making photographs. So if you're not satisfied with your work and you think your photos suck, my counterintuitive tip for you is lower your expectations and shoot as many bad photos as you can. Shoot bad photos on purpose. Embrace the fact that they suck and recognize that it's just part of the process. Every photographer you look up to has been in the exact situation you're in right now, looking at their work and feeling dissatisfied that it's not as good as the photographers they admire. I think the more that we travel into the digital era, the more we are bombarded by polished, picture-perfect pieces of people's portfolio that inspire us with awe, the harder it can be to focus on our own process. And I'm not saying don't compare yourself to other photographers. Comparison can be useful, but what's definitely not useful is when judgment gets in the way of you creating enough photographs to get the required volume to fill the glass. If you want to fill the glass as fast as possible and break free from the mental shackles that are keeping you stuck, I propose a radical solution. Embrace volume over literally everything else. Shoot 100 photos every single day. They don't have to be good. In fact, they can be terrible. You can make them terrible on purpose. And I'm not saying don't try. By all means, try. What I am saying is do not let judgment stop you from shooting. Because if you lower your expectations, focus on volume of effort, and use judgment as a tool to analyze what you could do better, instead of using it as proof that you suck, and you just keep shooting, it's only a matter of time before you start taking great photos. I wish I could tell you that this is the only trap you need to be aware of in your photography journey, but it's not. In fact, there are 3 other major traps that even experienced photographers fall into, and chances are you're probably making one of them without even realizing it. If you want to keep improving and avoid these hidden pitfalls, click here to watch my video on the 3 biggest photography mistakes even the pros make. I'll see you there. Grit, perseverance, and skill development. She spent, oh my God. Well, good thing I brought more.